Hello and welcome. First I have here is Stephen King's The Shining. My wife got this for me and she was just like, hey, Merry Early Christmas. And she was like, I was going to put this in your stocking, but there was no room for it. So here you go. And so I have a copy of The Shining now, and the movie, the Stanley Kubrick movie, I've seen like ridiculous amounts of times. I've actually never read the book though, and Stephen King is one of those authors that has the reputation of having a great journey but a terrible end. But a lot of people do praise The Shining quite a bit. I've just heard the book is a lot different from Stanley Kubrick's movie. The movie ignores a lot of stuff that is in the book, and I mean, I've seen the movie Dr. Sleep, and I remember even when seeing that in theaters, it was very like, oh, this is a lot more mystical and fantasy-like than I thought it would be, but it's following the book of The Shining and then the sequel book Dr. Sleep pretty closely. I mean, I could be off on that, but it definitely, when I was watching the movie Dr. Sleep, I was like, this seems a lot more fantastical than how the movie The Shining came off. People said the book is a lot more like fantastical in that sense, but I do look forward to reading this so I can at least brush up on knowledge of being like, what's the difference between the movie and the book. Yeah, I have that to look forward to. Next up is Kiki's Delivery Service. So my 2-year-old is actually a huge fan of this movie, and I was on Amazon and I was like, I want to get her, because I heard there was a picture book of Kiki's Delivery Service, and I was thinking of getting that for her. And little did I realize, I basically just saw this, was like, oh, that's a picture book, and then I bought it, and then very quickly, once it got here, took one glance at it, and I was like, no, it's just the novel, it's not a picture book of Kiki's Delivery Service, but we now have that and are going to give that to our daughter for Christmas. I was like, you know what, this wasn't very expensive whatsoever, and it looks like a pretty short book. Aiko Kadono, I could have said that way off, but apparently she did 5 books, a series, it was 5 in a series of Kiki books, but I think only this one, just Kiki's Delivery Service, is translated to English, and all the others have not been printed in English whatsoever. I find that hard to believe. It's kind of crazy. At least I've looked online, I'm like, there's more books in this series. I would love to do a deep dive on it, but I love the movie as well, and so I'm looking forward to reading this. I think people have said that the big climactic thing with the Zeppelin falling and that huge debacle at the very end of the movie, that's non-existent in the book. I don't know, I could be way off, but actually that is one of my big criticisms of the movie. I just felt this movie didn't really need this big climactic thing to happen, to have a big effect on me, and I thought the rest of the movie was mostly pretty chill, and then there's just this big kind of Americanized big climactic thing that happens at the end. It wasn't necessarily, it's not bad, but that was always my big criticism of the movie. So if the book completely cuts that out, I'm fine with that. This one is my new obsession, and I know it's got a very, very passionate fan base. And keep in mind, I am only 3 volumes in, but I did read through these 3 very recently, and I pretty much completely fell in love with it. I haven't delved super into it because it has about 40 volumes. And I'm only 3 volumes in. That is Berserk, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. It's funny, I've heard stories of people saying that they had a hard time getting into it at the beginning, and then it grew on them over time. I got into this immediately. I guess you want to call me an edgelord because, yeah, some things are very extreme. Some stuff Guts, our main character, says is very edgelord-like. I had no problem with this though whatsoever. I mean, I don't want to spoil much, but the very introduction to Guts as a character is he's literally having sex with someone who turns into a demon and he ends up killing them. That's just the most ridiculous thing ever, but I love stuff like that. That's just over the top ridiculous. And I know this series gets darker and darker, and Guts just goes through it. Most people say this is this character in fiction goes through the most turmoil out of any other character in fiction. I've just heard things, but yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, Guts struggles immediately from the beginning with a couple of people. Volume 2, there's this one person who gets their entire body gets so messed up from this ruler that he literally confines in Guts to be you must kill this guy for me because I physically cannot do it. I'm so mad about this and I want revenge in some aspect. And what happens to him is so awful. It's, I don't know, something about this book, it's so horrific in some of the stuff, at least I've read so far, but it's it really resonates, and especially Guts as a character, like so far, I mean, I'm sure it's nothing to what he goes through later on in the series. At least some of the stuff he just goes through immediately is like, geez. And he just keeps going. He just keeps going no matter what. And to me, that's, I don't know, something very inspiring about that when you just put up with a lot of anguish and turmoil and stuff, and you're just still like, you're still putting one foot in front of the other. I don't know. To me, that's very inspiring. But I remember, I don't know how long they stick around, but there's one character that is really funny. I forget his name already. Sorry, I'm taking forever finding. Oh, Puck. Puck is the character. Puck is a really funny character and really contrasts Guts as a character, because Guts is just super serious and like, anyone who gets in my path and can't handle themselves deserves to die. And then Puck is just like, no, that's so horrible. Don't do that. Or don't say that, like, type character. But Puck is really funny. And I think that's just such a great contrast to both their characters. They're both kind of just stuck with each other, at least so far. So I'm not sure how much longer Puck will be around. I would hope a little bit longer than expected, but I know Puck is, knowing this series, at least so far, Puck probably doesn't have a very happy ending. So, I mean, I can kind of expect that out of it. Yeah, so far Berserk is awesome. It's I don't know, it's something that just randomly spoke to me, like, very, very quickly. And I know a lot of people who were like, oh god, this world is so horrible, and, you know, type thing. And normally I'm one of those people that's like, if I start watching like a movie or something and something is just like so nihilistic and mean-spirited immediately, like, it kind of takes me out of it. I'm not a fan of like the Terrifier movies, for example. Like, I think those are super extremely mean-spirited and nihilistic, but like something like Berserk is like not the same thing, but it has like a similar tone that's just like, things aren't gonna work out for you type vibe. Maybe I like Berserk a little more because it's like Guts just keeps going. He basically could get crushed by like a building and like all his bones are broken and he'd just still be like, that sucked, but let's move on, like, type vibe. I don't know. He just constantly perseveres, and I don't know, I find that so awesome. And then finally, something that couldn't be more opposite to Berserk is another manga I got into recently. I had heard about the OVA, and I watched the OVA, and it's only like 2 episodes, and I really loved it, so I was like, I'll check out the manga, and that is Yokohama Kaidaishi Kikou. It's also translated to, at least the OVA, as Yokohama Shopping Log. This is the most chill piece of media about the apocalypse that you'll ever consume. If you don't know anything about this, well, there was 5 volumes made that was translated to English. I have 4 of them, so 1, 2, 3, I'm running out of room on my desk, and 4, but there's 5 total. Don't know much about this. It is about an android named Alpha who runs a cafe. Her owner just kind of takes off, and it's just kind of her adventures of living in this dystopian world, but everything is very mellow and beautiful, and the sea level has risen a lot, and like some cities and areas are like underwater. So it is the apocalypse, but it's like the most chill an apocalypse could ever look and such, or ever be. And there's no violence in this, like, whatsoever. It's just slice of life stuff, you know, following Alpha around and, you know, her little adventures. And what I love about this book is like, it's so refreshing to just like read something, and I feel this way about watching things as well, is like, you can like read something like this where it is engaging enough, but like nothing really happens, and it's just about its atmosphere, and its atmosphere can really suck you in. And I'm not like one that just goes to cozy stuff, like, and just consumes all cozy like type stuff, like, you know, Animal Crossing farm simulators that's like supposed to be cozy vibes and stuff. A lot of that doesn't last very long for me, so I'm like, all right, I'm bored of this. But this is very interesting, and all the people she meets are like kind and friendly people, and there's not a whole lot of like huge conflicts really. And yeah, the story is like just shrouded in mystery, because you're just like, what does their owner look like? Who is their owner? Why do they have a cafe that's just like out of the way in the middle of nowhere that no one would discover even if they were walking along the main road, you know? And she just runs this cafe even though she gets borderline no customers. I don't know, it's just something about it is just really enjoyable. There's this one guy who runs his gas station, but he like doesn't have a lot of gas and doesn't really sell any, so he just kind of like like has watermelons that he sells to people. I think they just call him Oji-san, or it just means like uncle. I think they just call him uncle. Yeah, he just always has a smile on his face. And so a lot of volume 1 is a lot of like Alpha kind of hanging out with Oji-san and these 4 volumes I have. And one thing that is portrayed really well, but isn't like, it's just shown and not told to you, but is the passage of time, like how that works. But at least from volume 1 to volume 3, you definitely shows you like the passage of time, because there's one side character, and then by the time you get to volume 3, a lot of volume 3 is a typhoon like hits Alpha's area, so like the cafe is like a good portion of it gets like destroyed. Alpha ends up just like going abroad and just ends up finding like work in random places and is, you know, away from her home for a while. And then when she does come back home later in volume 3, she meets that same side character. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, but she sees him and he's like a full-grown adult basically at that point. And I think it said like only a year had passed or something like that, but she sees him and she's like, you're no longer a kid. I'm not like a big sister to you anymore because you're taller than me or whatever. Volume 3 really came through with showing like the passage of time and like how that is in real life, where we just see somebody, we kind of remember them, how they looked, how they were, you know, what was going on with them like the last time we saw them, and then you kind of fall out of touch with people, and then the next time you see them they just look completely different. It's almost like you don't realize that the passage of time is a thing, and you know, like people do get older, people go through things in their life, so you know, they look different, you know, they've experienced different things, but it's like you just remember them from that last time you were around them. I don't know, something about that was very intriguing to me. Yeah, there's just not a lot of answers to why things are the way they are, like what really caused the apocalypse. That's something I know that a lot of people get bothered by with apocalyptic stories. They're like, well, what caused the apocalypse? Especially like zombie stuff, people are like, how did they become zombies? That's not the point of it. It's like, the point is, it's like they're just in this situation, so let's follow them in this situation. Not, you don't have to know the answers to everything. And that's kind of why I love this, because it's just intriguing. Like, you just kind of wonder what caused this collapse and why, you know, there's people around, but there's not a lot of people, and people are just kind of living their daily lives, and they're doing what they can like to get by in this new world, but you're just kind of like how'd this happen? Yeah, I'm very curious to how this manga is going to end, because I feel like it's just kind of gonna end. I don't feel like there'll be like a definitive end to this whatsoever. Like, I think it's just going to end, and then you're just gonna continue wondering. This is a really enjoyable manga. I have this volume 4 to look forward to reading. I'll probably have some sort of review in that sense. I'll have to get volume 5. I collected all these like in a very short period of time. I think there was some sort of sale for it. Like, I think volume 1 was $15. I think volume 2 was the same price. And a Barnes and Noble down the street from where I live like had just opened. And so me and my wife went in there and we were looking around, and there was a little anime like manga section. I ended up finding volume 3 there. Of all things, I was like, I don't feel like this is a very well-known manga just on a display thing with other mangas, and it was $25. You know what, whatever, I'll just buy it. But volume 4 was also fairly cheaper, so volume 3 was really the only one I had paid a pretty decent price toward. Yeah, I look forward to volume 5 as well, and I want more Berserk. I need more Berserk volumes. I know you could read these like for free online and such, but I am a fan of physical media, and so there is a lot of stuff that I tend to collect, especially getting into books a lot recently and manga. That might expand. This is probably like my number 1, not very far behind, in fact, like almost neck and neck. Like, Berserk is awesome. I love how hyper violent it is, and I would recommend it if you want something that kind of appeals to your dark side, and then but you also have a very light side to your, where you just want something relaxing. You know, they couldn't be more opposite. Actually, yeah, randomly, but in Yokohama Kaidaishi Kikou, 2 of the android characters like have a gun, and nothing ever comes of it, at least so far. There's been no violence like whatsoever in this. I will wrap it up there. I want to thank you all very much for watching this video. If you liked, you know, me rambling about manga and books, just give me a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. Show off physical media. There's too much digital stuff in the world, especially lately, and what we're doing away with physically. I'd like to at least preserve, you know, things that are coming out physically. So if I have room for it, and I really like it, I'll get it. So thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you in a future video. Bye.